Good evening, everybody. I want to start with a simple idea. Simple idea that sounds obvious, but it's often forgotten. The idea that creativity isn't an extra in our life. It's an essential part of who we are, an essential part of day-to-day life. It's not just for artists. It's not just for designers. It's not just for performers, but anyone who wants to think clearly, adapt quickly, and live well in this increasingly uncertain world. Today I want to talk about why creativity matters. Not just emotionally, not just personally, but scientifically as well. How creativity connects directly to our confidence. How it connects to our mental health and our courage. Our ability to face fear rather than avoiding it. I've had 30 years experience teaching in youth work, youth arts, HE sector, and I've seen diminishing focus on craft experimentation and the process of creativity. I've seen a decline in critical thinking, and I've also seen a negative impact in students' transitions into the higher education sector. As a dyslexic learner, I've got lived experiences, the challenges that many of you students face, me being the same as you. Undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia as a child wasn't the best thing to have. It didn't exist. It wasn't a condition that we could choose from. We were just branded a stick and stood in the corner. I therefore thrive to create a holistic and humanistic approach to the learning environments I've created here at DMU, where students with the similar characteristics as me can thrive in an artistic and creative manner. So my educational experience wasn't ideal. Challenges were unrecognised, undiagnosed, and therefore unsupported, and I had to find my own ways, and I found that creativity became my voice, my language. So I've harnessed this in my teaching practice, and it motivates me to develop an inclusive approach to allow students and staff and members of DMU to approach critical analysis and creativity in a non-judgmental manner. I'm an artist and designer, senior lecturer, creative practitioner here at DMU. And I've realised that here at DMU we've got one of the most diverse staff and student populations in all the HE sector across the UK. 1 in 5 of our DMU students and staff declare a disability. In response, I've developed this practice to conceive an inclusive, transformative studio space and culture where students can develop creative process. They can develop critical thinking without fear of failure. I've sought to create a culture and an environment centred around non-judgmental creative play. And all the stuff we do, it's not assessed. It's playtime. It's building lifelong learning skills, skills that you're going to use in business, in industry. Ken Robinson in his 2006 TED Talk said something that stopped millions of people in their tracks. He asked the question, do schools kill creativity? There's a question for you. In my opinion, creativity is as important as literacy and numeracy. Yet our systems that we've got in education reward one correct answer instead of many possible ones. And we punish mistakes instead of praising it for being curiosity, artistic development. We are educating our young people out of their creative capabilities, and I'm sick of it. From a very young age, many of us learn a dangerous lesson. Don't get it wrong. How dare you? Don't stand out. Don't take risks. I'm saying the opposite. Over time, creativity, which should be associated with exploration and possibility, becomes associated with danger. Where creativity feels dangerous, people stop doing it. People stop using it. This exercise is being lost. Pablo Picasso once said, every child is born an artist. It's just remaining the one as we grow up. And Ken Robinson said in his TED Talk, we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it, or rather, we're educated out of it. So this is where my work comes in, okay? The creation I've set up here at DMU to support you students with creativity, with criticality, in a non-assessed, non-judgmental environment. So in 1956, there was a guy called J.P. Guilford that came up with a term called divergent thinking. Has anybody heard of that before? Okay. So divergent thinking essentially means coming up with multiple solutions to get to the end result. And he was looking at this as though we artists and designers come up with this divergent process and then we funnel it into our convergent process. It's how design and art works. Later, researchers George Land and Beth Jarman decided to do a project which was a longitudinal study called Breakpoint and Beyond. So divergent thinking, as I mentioned, is the ability to generate multiple solutions. That's one of the core building blocks of what creativity is about. So Land and Jarman tested 1,600 students. So let me ask you the question. This original test was designed for NASA. It was designed to try and attract the most creative people, the most creative rocket scientists into NASA. So the similar test was used by Land and Jarman, and they tested 1,600 individuals. How many of you do you think created really high, divergent thinkers, creative beings? The only problem is they're only 4 and 5 years old. 3, 4 and 5 years old. All of them, you're optimistic. You're correct. The answer is 98% of those young people between 3 and 5 years old scored really high level. Why? Because they didn't care. Doesn't matter about making mistakes, does it? The same group of people were tested at the age of 10. Do you know what happened? It dropped to 30%. Amazing, isn't it? Or horrific. By the age of 15, it fell again to 12%. And in adults, it's dropped to 2%. There's now been 1 million people tested, and the same thing has happened. It didn't happen because people lost creativity. It happened because they were trained out of it. The ability doesn't disappear. It's suppressed. Suppressed by the fear of being wrong, the fear of judgment, and the fear of assessment. Creativity should be on par with literacy and numeracy. That's driven my passion to create what I've done here at DMU and excite and reawaken those creative capabilities in you as students and see that creative potential that you have. A lot of this has been overlooked in pre-higher education, with research indicating that we've got STEM subjects: science, technology, engineering and maths. Where's the A for art? Not there. Where's the D for design? It's not there. Where's the C for creativity? Not there. Okay? So we're missing this out in pre-mainstream education. Look around the room for me and tell me one thing that you can see that hasn't gone through a design process. You can't, can you? So why are we not focusing on creativity, art and design and inventing things? That's my bottom line. Ken Robinson talks about creativity as being the process of having original ideas. We should all be doing this, whether it's through text, whether it's through art, drama, music. Creativity is about creatively doing something, putting imagination to work rather than just having a kind of fleeting thought process. It's actually about doing the process. Ideas should be new, at least to the individual, and useful and relevant and of quality, originality and value. Creativity is the application of imagination, and it's about creating new possibilities. It's about applied imagination. Creativity is not limited to the arts, is it? As we've just spoken about. It's essential in all areas of life, including science, education, business. It's universal across the board, so why aren't we doing more of it? Denzel Washington famously said, to get something you never had, you've got to do something you never did. Interesting. Emphasising stepping outside of your comfort zone to achieve new results. Anybody heard of the fear bubble? Ant Middleton, ex-Special Boat Service, discusses being a soldier and being overwhelmed with being scared and petrified. He had to break it down into bite-sized pieces, which he describes as fear bubbles, stepping inside to a fear bubble to burst it and to escape. Fear bubble is a space where fear exists just before we do something challenging. It's temporary. It's uncomfortable. And as it grows, if we let it, it's not nice. Creativity lives inside that fear bubble, but we can break it down. And every time we share an idea, we try something new, we risk being wrong, we step into that fear bubble. But here's the key insight. Fear doesn't disappear before action, it disappears because of action. And creativity teaches us how to step into uncertainty, how to make mistakes, how to design, analyse, test. And we stay there long enough to burst that fear bubble. Every time we do, our confidence grows, which is what I do with our students here at DMU. If you don't fail, then you're not trying, okay? Thomas Edison reported that he had over 1,000 failures before he came up with the final invention for the electric light bulb, going through process, ideation, iteration, through creative thinking process. So what happens when we remove fear from learning? Here at DMU, I've created these non-assessed creative spaces with a partial focus on drawing and creativity and creative play. These spaces aren't designed to turn students into artists. No. They're designed to build confidence and creative thinking skills in everybody across the board. The outcomes I've found have been really overwhelming and really powerful. Students have reported that they've got an increase in confidence in all subjects, a greater willingness to experiment and problem solve, stronger visual and critical thinking, developing new creative skills, and a deeper sense of belonging and community. Who would have thought? And all of this is voluntary. Why? Because when creativity isn't graded, fear steps aside and learning happens. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Nothing in life is worthwhile unless we're taking risks. So fall forwards. Take those creative risks. Embrace failure. It's going to happen. Every failed experiment or mistake is just going to lead to new explorations and new ideas that are closer to a new area of success. Don't fall back. Avoid playing it safe. Don't rely on that backup plan. Have bigger goals. That backup plan that prevents you from going in all out into your dreams. Live life with no regrets, acting with purpose and passion. Denzel Washington again said it's going to take hard work and there's going to be setbacks. But if I fail, I fall forwards. Falling forward means I'm still progressing. It means I am still learning. You will fail at some point. We're all going to go through it, but embrace it. You might as well fall forwards, learning to move closer to your goals with each attempt that we fail. So students have reported that time spent in a non-assessed creative activity has helped to reduce anxiety, improve mental health, increase stronger social connections, increase that sense of belonging, not just academically, but humanly, bringing people together. Creativity allows people to be themselves, not perfect, not finished, not polished, but curious. That sense of belonging is foundational, and people don't thrive where they feel judged. They thrive where they feel safe enough to try. In a rapidly changing world, we don't just need people who can follow instructions. We need people who can think differently, adapt quickly, and learn from failure. This is divergent thinking, where these other people miss these possibilities. That is divergent thinking. That is creativity. That is resilience. Nelson Mandela said there's no passion to be found playing it small, in settling for a life that is less than one you are capable of living. Students of mine have reported that it's improved confidence, it's improved critical thinking, it's improved learning community, and it's helped within their subject matter. So bravery, don't be afraid. Try new things. Resilience, never give up. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are just positive explorations and lead to new ideas. Togetherness, be non-judgmental. Help each other. Positivity, assess the positives and silence the negatives. Positive mental attitude in the face of difficulties. A mindset, we can all improve, we can all develop, we can all respond, we can all be the best version of you. So I'm going to leave you with this. Creativity isn't a talent for the few, it's a birthright for all of you. And when we protect it, we give people a safe space to explore, fail, imagine, and play. We don't just build better students, we build better workers. We build braver human beings. We build braver people who can step into the fear bubble and turn them into breakthroughs through that fear bubble. I'll leave you on the final note, which is a really interesting quote I found from the former CEO of Coca-Cola, which is, never let your memories be greater than your dreams. Thank you.